What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to break down some big news involving Tesla and the NHTSA and what's going on so far. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. Deposit $100 and you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposits $2,000 and you're guaranteed 30, not to mention 8.1% APY in uninvested cash. The offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, let's talk about Tesla. So, looking at Tesla in the daily time frame, we're continuing to make lower highs and lower lows, and we are currently a little bit below our 200 EMA on the daily, which is not a good sign. It's continuing to look very weak, and I do think that we have the potential to come down to start not only filling this gap, but first off, we have to really test this support around this 275 area, and then if that fails us, I think we fill the gap to like 250. So we have a lot of gaps on the daily that are going to start getting filled. Not every single one of them has to get filled. That does not mean Tesla has to dump to like the 50s or like all the way down here. That's not a guarantee. I'm just talking about this next big gap here, which I think Tesla will fill. We're just going to focus on that for now. If we lose our critical supports, then we're very, very close to them. So there's still a lot of weakness right here. But despite this weakness, I just want to say that other tickers such as like SPY do have some promising setups. I will talk about those in just a minute. I first want to talk about some news and data. So as a reminder, tomorrow we don't really have much data coming out. It's going to be very quiet, but we have Nvidia's earnings, so keep that in mind. The earnings happen after market close, so don't worry too much about, if you're holding anything overnight. As far as Tesla goes, I'm seeing lots of bad news. All over the news, we're seeing some news about how their, European sales are down, the UK sales are down by half, and Tesla's now below the $1 trillion market cap. I'm seeing a lot of talk about that. I'm continuing to see lots of headlines about how Elon Musk is getting criticized for this because of his politics, and the list goes on. We also saw their European sales down almost 50% in the last month. So just in the month of January alone, the data is out. And then on top of this, we have more data coming out for February in just a couple of days. So I'll see what the data looks like from then. So overall, we're seeing the new registrations continuing to fall. We're seeing sales down like almost 54% in Germany, 37.2% in Belgium, 28.2% in the Netherlands, and the list goes on. And we're continuing to see this happen. We also start to see more criticism as a result of this. They're blaming Elon Musk's politics for this, which is a possibility, but you have to keep in mind that Tesla has new products coming out. And as interest rates start to decrease, I think that could help offset this. I do hope that that ends up being the case. And then the American and Chinese markets could still attempt to offset this over time, even though the American and Chinese sales are down as well. In the future, I still think they could really help to offset this, even all the political turmoil that's going on. So just keep that in mind. Um, I also want to mention that we're still seeing all this all over the news. Every major headline is just screaming about how their sales are down like crazy in Europe, and that's part of why Tesla's selling off. And then there's news about the NHTSA. So one thing that's going on is that the regulators have opened 2 new investigations into Tesla over the last 4 months. And they just announced that they're going to be retaining all positions critical to helping to save lives, in their opinion. And despite the fact that we're seeing many of these federal employees being cut by the Trump administration, they're once again planning on doing something very differently. The NHTSA has laid off about 4% of its staff, but they claim that they want to keep the most crucial employees involved in fatal accidents, and they're going to continue to investigate Tesla despite this. Right, they made that very clear. The Tesla investigations are going to continue. They're not stopping right now, and that wasn't the best of news for Tesla. This is still affecting about 2.4 million Tesla vehicles. They did mention that they launched an investigation back in October, and I don't think they're done yet. They're still continuing to do this, so keep that in mind, guys. The investigations are nowhere near being finished. Also, there's another one in January. The NHTSA had a preliminary investigation into 2.6 million Tesla vehicles with a summon feature. It looks like they're still looking into this and other things like this, so just keep that in mind. That's very important news. They're continuing to look into Tesla's self-driving systems, investigating them, and doing a lot of things like that. Despite the layoffs that they are experiencing, they're not necessarily giving up. So keep that in mind. Important news for Tesla. As a result of all this bad news, Tesla's barely holding 300. If we lose that, we could easily dump to about 296 to fill that gap. And then we have this gap support coming next around the 280 area, very close to 280. Then we have 275 and then 250 is our support. So we're still looking bearish. We're barely holding on to 300. We're looking very, very weak. On the other hand, I do want to mention that SPY has a setup. So when you look at the 4-hour time frame, we are starting to form a possible falling wedge. I could see it actually forming now. These don't always pan out, so don't necessarily gamble on this or be like way too fixated on this to play out because they don't always happen. But I am looking at a setup that looks like this for now. As you can see, SPY is respecting a falling wedge-like pattern. If we could hold 589, it's possible we see a rebound move with Nvidia's earnings. If we lose 589, I expect us to fill the gap all the way down to 584. There's a gap to fill all the way down on the daily. Why am I in the middle? It's because of this right here. There's many instances where we were getting very close to fill the gap and we bounced instead off 590. Same thing happened here. Back in February, we bounced off 590, and the same thing could be happening here. We'll see if we bounce or not. I do think we're going to continue to consolidate in this wedge for some time. Could even dip a little bit more to 590 again. But if we break to the upside after Nvidia's earnings, we could be looking for a reversal move like this. If not, if we don't end up getting the reversal and we lose 589, we're just going to go back down to fill the gap to 584 and continue to dump. So we'll see if the setup pans out or not. I'm in the middle, but I just want to give you guys some heads up about the fact that these are, developing, and this does have some potential for a reversal. I'm pretty much just 50-50 at this point, depending on Nvidia, but this is a possibility, and this is an argument that can be made in favor of bulls, that we're about to see a reversal. We'll see. We'll see if the wedges pan out or not, so give this some time. The Russell 2000, we are holding support right now, right here, around this 214 area. As long as that holds, we could be looking for a rebound for 218. On ES, we're looking at support very close to about 59.50. That held so far. And then ES also happens to have a potential falling wedge. So I'm seeing a very similar setup on ES. I think that this could be promising if we end up seeing this play out. We'll be very, very patient nonetheless. But like I said before, I'm going to just give this the time it needs. We'll see if these wedges play out for ES and NQ. If we can get back above like 6,000, that's going to be very promising. We'll see about that just to be safe. Same thing with NQ approaching Nvidia's earnings, okay? We have a very similar setup. We're falling. We are bearish, but the setup does have potential to reverse looking at this falling wedge. It's the same thing. They don't always pan out. If we lose 21,000, I'm going to remain more bearish. If we could hold this, we're looking for a bounce for 21,400. For Bitcoin, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We're continuing to fall. I just think that's nothing to really worry about. We are still at 85,000. We're going to be watching to see if this holds or not. That's the reason why I'm not really too worried about this, because once again, it's an opportunity either way. Nvidia, it's holding 126, so I see the potential setup. There's still the possibility of the inverse head and shoulders here. It's possible this plays out. Not a guarantee, but it's a possibility. If we could base here and we start bouncing tomorrow, there could be an attempt to get back up towards these higher levels. We'll see just to be safe. If we lose 126, we're looking for 120. Nvidia could dump all the way down to 120. If not, it could be bouncing here. We'll see if the setup pans out. I'm going to be very patient nonetheless. Aapl remains bullish. It's very resilient. As long as it does not lose 245, we could slowly uptrend for 250. Overall, it's doing a fantastic job. AMD is dipping quite a bit. It's getting rejection after rejection. We're going to be watching to see if 102.5 holds or not. For coin, we're on a bit of a downtrend as well. We're looking for 216 to 224 as our resistance zone. We could be retesting 216, so keep that in mind. As long as we don't lose 210, it could try a little rebound. Amazon dumped really hard to 204, but now there's buyers defending it. We'll see if we can reclaim 212 and then 215. It might see a 215 retest. We have a similar setup as SPY. Meta is trying to reclaim its 200 EMA at 657. As long as we close above that, this has the potential to bounce. So overall, it's not down too bad. It's only down 1%. Not too bad. Microsoft needs to hold 398. We're barely holding support. We'll still see how that goes. And then Google needs to hold 178, and we have to see how that holds up as well. We're still looking more bearish on Google. It's looking relatively weak. That being said, guys, we're at the psychological 300 area. Tesla's got to hold this. If not, we're going to remain even more bearish. I do hold a more bearish view looking at the setup. We'll see how Nvidia's earnings affects this. But overall, let's wait and see, guys. It's a game of patience, so we'll see what Nvidia gives us. Will Nvidia cause a temporary bounce in the markets, or is Nvidia about to sink? We'll see what happens after earnings tomorrow after the bell, so get ready for that. After market close, by the way. And then SPY has a promising setup, so does the QQQ and our futures. We'll see what happens here. I'm just giving you guys the facts out there to see what the setups look like. I'm not really trying to give you guys financial advice, so keep that in mind. Thank you for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.